Alright people, so welcome to our daily current affairs lecture series. Now today we are going to cover current affairs from 4th of August. So all the important news items that featured in the newspaper of 4th of August, all the important newspapers shall be covered in today's lecture. Now needless to say this, you have to make this lecture series a part of your daily routine or else you'll quickly forget these current affairs. Okay, this current affairs lecture series won't be of any use to you. So make it a part of your daily routine because current affairs forms the most important chunk of your UPSC examination. It's really very important. So get a hold over these current affairs. Make it a part of your daily routine. All right then. Without further delay, without further introduction, let's straight away dive into today's lecture. So let's begin. So daily current affairs, 4th of August 2026, and here are the topics that we shall cover. So number one topic is domestic violence in live-in relations, because recently Supreme Court gave a very important judgment with respect to that. So we'll talk about this. Then topic number two is stronger yen's impact on India. Recently, USA and Japan both have decided to take certain actions that would make Japanese yen stronger vis-a-vis dollar. This would have devastating consequences for India. How? We'll talk about this. Then topic number three is Kerala's forests to be removed from Google Maps. Basically, Google Maps used to geotag each and every nook and corner of Kerala's forests. Now, Kerala government has decided to remove some of these areas, forest areas, from Google Maps. Basically, remove these geotags. So we'll talk about this. And the last news item is related to Indian Statistical Institute Bill 2026, because the government has decided to change the governance architecture of this Institute of Eminence, that is Indian Statistical Institute. Okay, so this is the fourth news item. So these are the four news items that we shall zero in our attention on. So let's start discussing them one by one. Starting with topic number one, and that is domestic violence in live-in relations. Now, you see, the thing is that domestic violence there are civil remedies against that, there are criminal remedies against that. So if someone is accused of domestic violence, well, it is a criminal offense and they can be prosecuted. Earlier, they used to be prosecuted under Section 498A of Indian Penal Code, IPC. But we all know that IPC has been replaced by BNS, Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, so Section 85 of BNS. But this criminal offense was covered only, or it covered only married relations. Okay, so domestic violence, there was a criminal offense in case of domestic violence only in marriage relations or married couples, among married couples. But live-in relationships were excluded from this. So if there is a case of domestic violence in live-in relationships, well, it was not criminalized. There were civil remedies, but it was not criminalized. So someone filed a petition in the Honorable Supreme Court under Article 14, right to equality, that you are discriminating against live-in relations. So you are discriminating. That is a violation of right to equality. And recently, Supreme Court gave an important judgment. And that important judgment was that now, in case of domestic violence, live-in relations would be treated at par with marriage. Okay, so this was an important judgment. So we have to talk about this. So let's talk about this. Okay. So domestic violence in live-in relations. So this was the context. In a landmark decision, a Supreme Court bench ruled that offense of cruelty under Section 498A of Indian Penal Code, which was replaced by Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, extends to live-in relationships. Okay, this was done to serve Article 14 of our Constitution, which is right to equality. Okay, now domestic violence in case of marriage. How was it handled? Legally speaking, how was it handled? Okay, earlier. So the thing is, Section 498A IPC or Section 85. Now it is Section 85. Clear? General live-in relationships. If there is a case of domestic violence in general live-in relationships, it is governed by Domestic Violence Act. Okay? And only civil remedies are available. Only civil remedies are available. Civil remedies are protection orders, maintenance is given. So domestic violence in case of live-in relationships were only provided civil protections. That is Domestic Violence Act. But in marriage-like institutions, okay, well, it was also protected under DV Act, that is Domestic Violence Act. It is also protected under Section 498A of IPC, or let's call it 85 of BNS. So what's the thing? The thing is that if there is a case of domestic violence in live-in relationships, well, it was a civil case under Domestic Violence Act. But if it is marriage, then it was civil plus criminal. Both can be applied. Okay, so clearly there is a discrimination between marriage and live-in relations. Okay, don't you think that a person who's accused of domestic violence is equally guilty in both live-in relations and marriage? Okay, the person should be behind bars, right? So this was remedied by the Honorable Supreme Court. Clear? So court's rationale was, well, evolution of the concept of husband. So generally, previously, before this judgment, husband was treated in a legally valid formal marriages only. Judicial expansion phase 1. Void and voidable marriages. Misrepresentation of marital status. Basically, what happened was, husband was, the section says, 498 says that husband shouldn't be involved in domestic violence or there is a criminal offense. So it was applied only to legally valid marriages. But what about defunct, void marriages which do not have a proper marriage certificate? First, the judiciary applied to those husbands as well. They would also be criminalized. And now, judiciary has expanded the definition of husband to include live-in partners as well. So this is a new thing and a good thing as well, right? Test for criminal applicability. So in what cases of domestic violence in live-in relationships would the criminal sections apply? Okay, so Supreme Court has given a dual threshold test. This criminal section won't apply in all cases of domestic violence in live-in relationships, only certain cases. And for that, the Supreme Court has given a dual threshold test. Substantive marriage attributes. That live-in relationship should have marriage attributes. It should be closer to marriage. It shouldn't be a casual live-in relationship. It should be a substantial live-in relationship. The relationship must meet the criteria outlined in Indra Sharma, VVK Sharma, proving that cohabitation mirrors the domestic, financial, and social characteristics of formal marriage. So that live-in relationship should be equivalent. It isn't a normal casual live-in relationship, cohabitation. It's a proper live-in relationship without a formal marriage stamp. Okay, and then mental element, intent to marry. Intent is everything in law. Okay, so the relationship must involve an explicit or implicit mutual intent to marry, that the couple would marry in future. That means it's a serious live-in relationship. If this is the case, then criminal sections would apply. Then the definition of husband extends to this live-in partner as well. Okay, now here is a comparison between, well, Domestic Violence Act, which has civil remedies, and the criminal section 85 of BNS. Okay, civil law, criminal law covers all domestic relationships, including live-in. It only covered marriages. Okay, balance of probabilities. Civil remedies are there, criminal remedies are there. So it's a point-by-point comparison, which we have just discussed. So take a look at this table as well. Now, why is this judgment important? Okay, this is really important for us to know. Significance of this judgment. Evolution of family and domestic law. Now, live-in relationships are also included. Serious live-in relationships are included in this definition of criminal. The definition of husband has been extended to this. So, well, this has evolved. The Supreme Court's jurisprudence has evolved. Well, it is closing statutory lacunae. Statutory lacunae means the gaps in our laws, legal gaps that were there. Well, the Supreme Court closed those legal gaps. Plus, it is harmonizing judicial precedents. Judiciary's previous judgments where they have provided certain protections against domestic violence to partners in live-in relationships. Well, it is in tune with that as well. So these are the three significant achievements, advantages of this judgment. Okay, that's about it. Now let's quickly shift our focus to next news item, and that is stronger yen's impact on India. Now this is economics related. This would involve some economics concepts. So listen to me carefully. Okay. Now you see, the thing is that Japan is really not happy with its depreciating currency. Yen is constantly depreciating. Okay. Because of that, imports in Japan are extremely expensive and people are not happy with this imported inflation. So Japanese government decided to take steps to appreciate yen. Okay. Now they had one way to do that. In their forex reserves, they have a lot of American treasury bills. They decided to sell those American treasury bills in turn or in exchange for yen. That would increase the demand for Japanese yen, and Japanese yen would appreciate vis-a-vis dollar. So they found one way, that they would sell on a mass scale. They would dump American securities, okay, in exchange for yen, and yen would appreciate. But if they do that, well, the market price of American treasury bills would decline significantly. It would increase interest rates in America. And this is something that America cannot afford right now, especially the federal government of America. Already the debt is ballooning over them. Okay. So they have given a way out to Japan. They are saying that you please do not sell our treasury bills. We would buy yen in the international market on your behalf. By that logic, well, you are only concerned with appreciating yen, so we would buy Japanese yen, thereby increasing the demand for Japanese yen in the international currency markets, and Japanese yen would appreciate. So don't dump our treasury bills, just allow us to buy yen, increase the demand for yen. This is the arrangement between America and Japan. Now, it will have impact on India because it is generally seen that whenever yen appreciates, well, there is an outflow of foreign investments from India. So foreign outflows happen, which puts pressure on rupee. Okay, it puts a depreciating pressure on rupee. So rupee would further depreciate. Imports would become expensive in India, and we'll have, well, when rupee depreciates, all hell breaks loose. Okay, so we will have really bad consequences. Now, how will we manage all of this? Well, let's see. We'll talk about it, but let's see the entire issue. Okay, so pay close attention. So stronger yen's impact on India. So this is the arrangement. I explained to you the arrangement. Okay. So basically, why USA and Japan have come to this agreement. So what are Japan's objectives? There is high imported inflation, high import reliance, makes yen inflationary for consumers. So Bank of Japan needed to curb volatility without certain rapid rate hikes. Bank of Japan had one more way of appreciating yen, and that was to increase interest rates. But Japan is not ready for that. They would keep interest rates near 0%. Okay, but they wanted to appreciate yen. So the another way was dumping American securities, but America stopped them. US debt and yield protection. US national debt, $40 trillion, leaves treasury yields sensitive to large-scale Japanese bond sales, preventing dollar spikes, eases pressure on US balance sheet and long-term yields. So basically, they don't want their bond yields to spike. Okay, this is America's interest. So that is why they have decided to do so. Now, how is yen? Okay, listen to me very carefully. How is yen related to Indian markets? Only then you'll be able to understand that this action by both USA and Japan would impact Indian markets. So how is yen connected to Indian markets? So understand this mechanism first. So the thing is, you all know that there is near zero interest rate provided by Bank of Japan. So what do investors do? They borrow Japanese yen at near zero interest rate or ultra low interest rates in Tokyo. Borrowed yen is converted into foreign currency like US dollars or Indian rupees. Okay, suppose these investors want to invest in India. So they would convert yen into Indian rupees. Then this Indian rupees would be deployed into Indian assets, which means they will buy Indian shares, bonds, everything. This would increase foreign investment in India and India would benefit. Clear, simple. So far, India was benefiting because of this. So far, India was benefiting. Okay. Investor earns the interest rate differential and capital appreciation. What is the interest of the investor? Well, they are borrowing money at 0% and they are lending money to India at 7%. So they are earning this differential. Okay. So this was their rationale and they were doing that in India. But, well, foreign investors panic if tomorrow there is a news that yen would appreciate. Why? Why is there a panic? Listen to me very carefully. Now, suppose I borrowed 100 yen in the international market. Okay. And currently, let's suppose 1 yen is equal to 10 rupees. Let's suppose, though it is not the correct exchange rate. Now, I'll convert it into 1000 rupees and then invest in Indian stock market, Bombay Stock Exchange, let's suppose. Now, let's suppose tomorrow yen appreciates. 1 yen is equal to 20 rupees now. Yen has appreciated. Now, I have to return this money to Bank of Japan. Now, I have 1000 rupees, but these 1000 rupees would only fetch me 50 yen. Okay, to get 100 yen, I need 2000 rupees. So I got 1000 rupees, I invested that in Indian stock markets, but to return 100 yen to Bank of Japan after some time, now I need 2000 rupees. Okay, don't you think there is a currency risk? I will run a loss. This is the exchange rate risk. And whenever yen appreciates, well, investors panic. They sell all their assets in India convert it into yen before it appreciates further, and they give that money back to Japan. Okay. Now, this is all fine, but this leads to foreign outflows from India. These foreign outflows lead to rupee depreciation, which creates a whole set of challenges for India. This is what is happening. Okay. Now, currently, Indian market exposure to Japanese yen is huge. Okay. Around $21 billion of Japanese yen is in Indian markets. Okay. Plus, if rupee depreciates, well, this will make crude oil also expensive for us, and rupee would decline. So, dollar index would rise as dollar rupee exchange rate is concerned. Okay. So, this is bad for India. Now, how can India protect itself? Way forward for India. Well, to protect sliding rupee, RBI needs to tighten liquidity in India, which means RBI can increase interest rates to save rupee from sliding. This can happen. Then focus on long-term permanent investment, FDI, which is more permanent rather than FII, which is temporary. Whenever there is some loss, these people get out. But FDI people stay invested even if there are profits and losses along the way. So focus on long-term investment and monitoring crude oil and commodity volatility. Make sure that you handle this crude oil imports because this is putting a lot of pressure on Indian rupee. So handle it. Okay, this is the only way forward. But I hope you understood the dynamics between yen and India, right? That would be all. Now let's quickly shift our focus to next news item, and that is Kerala forests removed from Google Maps. Now here's the thing, listen to me very carefully. You see, the thing is that Google Maps covers everything. Now, all the important forest areas of Kerala were also geotagged by Google Maps. Now, what was happening? There were certain protected areas in Kerala's forests where human intervention is not allowed, human interference is not allowed. But all these tourists, people who go for hiking, they were using these Google Maps for adventure sports and all these things, and they were interfering with the core protected areas of Kerala's forests. Okay. Now, this was harming all the conservation related activities being conducted by forest officials. So, Kerala government has, moved ahead. Kerala government has decided to write to Google and ask them to take down certain forest areas from Google Maps, basically removing geotagging. Okay, so that people do not have navigation capabilities in these areas and people do not travel to these areas because these areas are reserved areas for the government for conservation activities. This is the entire news. Clear? So let's talk about it. We need to know under which law Kerala government has the authority to do so. We need to be aware of that. So let's talk about this. Okay. So Kerala forest to removed from Google Maps. Kerala Forest Department has initiated a crackdown on unauthorized geotagging of sensitive locations, trekking trails, and viewpoints inside reserve and protected forests across digital mapping platforms like Google Maps. Clear? Now, what is digital geotagging? Clear? How is this problematic? So unauthorized geotagging happens. You can pin your location on Google Maps. So user generated pin on digital navigation maps. This happens. This leads to more tourism because you'll pin a location that it's an amazing location. More tourists would come to that. Crowds drawn to eco-sensitive and danger zones. Multifaceted ecological and safety risks. Human-wildlife conflict, economic degradation because people dispose of waste in forest areas. Monsoon landslides. This also happens because you are not keeping the pristine nature pristine. Okay. So this is the reason. Because of the recent landslides, Kerala government has decided to do so. Okay. Control human related activities. Now, why is geotagging problematic? Well, ecological and wildlife risks because more human intervention is there. Disaster and public safety. Monsoon landslide hazards, flash floods, missing persons, rescue operation. Because rescue operations, if a person gets trapped in a landslide and he was in a banned location, okay, not allowed, not permissible, well, then rescue operations have to be undertaken in that case. Also, that puts a strain on rescue operations and governance and legal friction because unlawful trespassing is illegal, but people were doing that with the help of Google Maps. Okay, misattribution of conflict. Whenever there is human-animal conflict, we generally blame the animal, but humans shouldn't have gotten into that area in the first place. Intermediary compliance lags. So this is there. Now, under which law Kerala was doing that? Well, first of all, Kerala Forest Act and Wildlife Protection Act of the central government. These sections restrict entry into reserve forests and protected areas. makes unauthorized entry, trespassing, and aiding illegal access a punishable offense, criminal offense. Then, Indian government also has national geospatial policy, guidelines on collection, dissemination, and publication of spatial data, space-related data, Google Maps basically, restricts mapping of high security installations and sensitive environmental ecological areas. Then, well, you can stop Google Maps from publishing this information even under IT Act, safe harbor provisions, okay, and Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. Public nuisance, criminal trespassing, and endangering life or personal safety is punishable under Indian Penal Code, which is replaced by Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. So all these laws allow Kerala government to do what it is doing right now. Okay. Now, state intervention. What has the state decided to do? There is an identification IT wing which will scan digital platforms for unverified pins, trails, tagging. Aggregation and verification. Forest management wing validates list against forest boundaries, that which area is protected, which is not. Takedown platform escalation. Issue formal removal request to Google Maps. Local enforcement. Then the policemen will make sure that people do not come to this area. And the panchayats are also given authority to monitor the entire situation. Clear? Now, so that this situation never occurs in future, well, there are a few way forwards that are suggested. Well, just go take a look at that from our notes. Clear? And now let's quickly shift our focus to last news item of the day, which is pretty short. We won't spend that much time discussing it because it involves cramming related information. And that is an amendment bill to amend Indian Statistical Institute Act. Now, Indian Statistical Institute, well, is a institute of eminence. It's a very important institution and it had a governance architecture. Now, the government wants to change that governance architecture, okay? And for that reason, it has introduced an amendment bill. Now, many teachers, educators are protesting against this amendment bill because they are saying that the government is trying to snatch away their autonomy through this bill. So what is this entire issue? Let's talk about it very quickly. So Indian Statistical Institute Bill. Union Minister of Statistics and Program Implementation introduced this bill in Lok Sabha. The legislation seeks to repeal and replace Indian Statistical Institute Act. Here, now, why are people objecting to it? Okay, this is how the initial act was, initial governance was. This is the proposed framework under the new law. So current framework is, it is a registered society under West Bengal Societies Act. It is governed by a broad ISI council, Indian Statistical Institute Council, with 65 plus members. All of them are elected teachers. Okay, high academic representation and decentralized because elections take place. Now, under the new bill, first of all, it won't be a registered society, it would be a statutory body. Okay, governed by compact board of governance, and board of governance won't have elected members, elected teachers, they would be nominated by central government. Union nominated visitor, president, and board of governance majority. Majority of government nominations in board of governance. Plus ISI council was 65 plus members. This would be very few members. So basically the charge is that you are making the governance of this institution undemocratic. This is the charge. Okay. Now this is clause by clause comparison. The previous law, the new amended. This is the previous law, the new amended law. So it was a registered society, it will be a statutory body. ISI Council would be replaced by Board of Governance, which would be a compact body dominated by central government nominees. Over here, there were internal elections. Supreme visitor role, no formal visitor framework, internal council's autonomy was there over all decisions. President of India serves as a visitor with direct review and removal powers. Again, interference from central government. Director selection. Appointed by the democratically constituted ISI Council. So the director of the institute would be appointed by ISI Council. Over here, it would be appointed by a central committee. Academic scope, statistics, mathematics, economics, computer science. Now, under this new law, this institute would also teach quantitative sciences, cryptology, data science. This is one good part. But all the other parts are considered undemocratic, centralizing tendencies. So that is why it is being heavily criticized. Now, what is the debate? Well, what are the allegations against this? Erosion of academic freedom. People are alleging this. You are removing democracy from this because you are removing elections. Financial and student support concerns. Protesting students fear that transitioning from a society to standard corporate structure may jeopardize ISI's historic policy of tuition-free education. Because now if it would be a statutory body corporate, it would charge hefty fees also. I mean, students are alleging that. Lack of pre-legislative consultation. Okay, this bill should have been given to a standing committee for analysis. This wasn't done. Okay, so this is the thing. That's about it, right? Yeah, that would be all. So with that, we conclude today's session. So thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I'm sure it has added value to your preparation. But it will add more value if you're number one, consistent and regular with this lecture series, and number two, you revise this lecture from the notes provided by us. So be sure to do that. And I shall see you next time with another set of news items. Thank you, everyone.